Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Erica. Today we're going to be making the cutest and easiest knit coaster. This project is going to be perfect for beginners if you're looking to learn how to knit. This is so fun and easy, and it's great because it's a smaller project so you won't get frustrated. I think it's going to be a great stepping stone for you to go on to bigger and better things. Now we do have a twist with today's project. Instead of knitting with regular yarn, we're going to be knitting with macrame cord. We're going to make this adorable little coaster. You can make it in an afternoon typically. It really does not take very long. And then we did a little bit of added flair at the end, which makes it extra special. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's what you're going to need. So we're going to be using 3mm macrame cording. I just got it off Amazon. I'm also going to be using US 10 straight bamboo knitting needles. You'll also want a pair of scissors, and I forgot to show it, but a crochet hook or yarn needle to weave in your ends when you're done. We're going to start out by pulling about 2 feet of our macrame cording out, and I'm just kind of eyeballing it there. And then we're going to make a slip knot. And so just follow the video there. You're just going to loop it around and then pull the tail through your loop and then tighten it. And then we're going to slip that knot onto our knitting needle, and then I'm just using my left hand there to tighten up that stitch. Now we're going to place the yarn as shown on our fingers, and we're going to cast on 12 stitches. Now, by the way, if you need help casting on, I will link my cast on video here. I go through it in much more detail, take it really slow, step by step, so you can get a good cast on. Otherwise, you can kind of just watch what I'm doing here to get started. So we're going to cast on 12 stitches, and I'm just doing what's called a long tail cast on, but you're welcome to use whatever cast on method you prefer. So I'm going to just continue casting on here. And this is just my preferred cast on method, and I think it works really well with this macrame cording as well. So I'm just counting my stitches and making sure that I have 12 stitches cast on. Now that we're going to turn our needle around so the needle with all the stitches is in our left hand. Next, we're going to grab our other needle and we're going to start knitting. So we're just going to push that needle in through that first loop from front to back, and then wrap the yarn around from back to front and just pull that stitch off. Again, push our needle through from front to back, wrap the yarn around, pull it through, and pull that stitch off. And we're just going to continue knitting all the way down this first row of stitches until we get to the end. If you're new to knitting and this is going too fast for you, I will put a link below on my how to knit video. I go through in much more detail and much slower there to help you learn how to create this knit stitch. Otherwise, you're also welcome to kind of slow this video down or rewind it and watch it again. But we're just going to knit all the way down our 12 cast on stitches. And really, working with this macrame is not much different than working with any other yarn, other than it's not quite as flexible or stretchy, but otherwise it's totally the same concept. All right, now we're here at the end, and we're going to just stretch out our stitches and make sure that that's as wide as we want our coaster. If it is, we can turn it around and we can just continue knitting down this row just like we did. So you're always going to have the needle with your stitches on it in your left hand, and you're always going to have your empty needle that you're putting the stitches onto in your right hand, and that is if you're right-handed. So we're going to go ahead again and just knit down this edge, and I'll be quiet and you can just kind of watch me knitting. Here we are, we're almost getting towards the end. This is our last stitch, and we've got that first row done. It looks great. And now you can kind of see what our coaster is going to be looking like. And now, this is the easy part. We're just going to continue knitting for as many rows as we would like until our coaster is the size that we want it to be. So I just knit until mine was about 4 inches long, because it was also about 4 inches wide. That might vary based on how tightly or loosely that you knit. And so just go back and forth until your coaster is the size you want. There are no rules here. That's why it is such a fast and easy project. You can make it any size you like. I'm gonna go ahead and probably speed up the rest of this because now I'm just gonna be knitting back and forth until I get my coaster about 4 inches long. So you can do the same thing, and then I will meet you back here when we're done. And here's what it's looking like. If you're new, you're going to want to recount your stitches every so often just to make sure you still have the 12 that you cast on. All right, so now I have knit to about 4 inches by 4 inches. So now I think we're done here. I've measured my piece and it's about square, and I think it looks good visually as far as size. And so now I'm ready to bind off this edge. And binding off just means that we're just gonna finish off that edge. So we're gonna start by knitting 1 stitch and slipping that onto our right needle. We're gonna knit a 2nd stitch. And now we're going to take that 1st stitch and slip it over the top of the 2nd stitch and let it go. So that's 1 stitch bound off. Now we're just going to repeat this process all the way down our edge until we don't have any stitches left. So you're just going to continue to knit 1 stitch and then pass that 1st stitch over your 2nd stitch. So you'll always have either 1 or 2 stitches on your right hand needle, no more. So make sure you're remembering to slip off that 1st stitch. And as you can see, every time we slip off another stitch like that, we're just creating that lovely finished edge on the rest of the coaster. Right, and now we are getting down to our very last stitch, so we're going to knit that last stitch, slip the 1st stitch over just like we've been doing. Oops, dropped it off my needle. There we go, I got it. All right, and now we can cut our thread. So we're going to leave ourselves a tail of about like 8 or so inches or less, and then you're going to take that tail and just pass it through your leftover loop, your last loop, and then just pull it tight, just like that. And it kind of creates a little knot. Now we're just gonna grab a crochet hook. You can also use a yarn needle, and we're gonna weave our ends in. Now to weave in our ends, I'm gonna go ahead and just stick my crochet hook in through one of those stitches and just pull that yarn through, or the cording. And then I'm just gonna kind of zigzag back and forth as you see me doing here to weave that end in. And then I'm just going to repeat that process until I get my end woven in, and we'll do that on both ends of our coaster just to kind of hide our starting and stopping cord. And you just need to weave it part of the way through, and then you can just clip it off. So I'm just going to finish weaving in my ends so that they aren't visible, and then you can actually stop at this point and just have a finished coaster, or we're going to take it one little step farther and we're going to add a fringed edge to it just to give it a little bit more flair, a little bit more extra fun design, but this part is totally optional. Now to do the fringe, I'm cutting several pieces that are about 8 inches each, and I measured my first piece and then I'm just using the rest of the pieces to help cut the other ones. I'm not measuring every single piece because once we get our fringe added, we're gonna trim it off anyway. So they don't have to be exact, just basically similar in size. And you're gonna want about 24 pieces of fringe because we're gonna put one in each of our stitches. And if you recall, we cast on 12 stitches. So we should have 12 stitches at our start and at our finish. And so we're gonna need 24 little pieces for our fringe. Now to do our fringe, we're gonna take one of our pieces and we're just gonna fold it in half, just like you see me doing here. Next, I'm gonna take my crochet hook and I'm gonna stick it through one of the stitches on the end of my coaster and just pull that through, but don't pull it all the way through. We're just gonna pull it through so we have that little loop there. And then we're gonna thread the ends through the loop. And then you can just pull it tight. And then you have your little piece of fringe. So we're gonna do that in every stitch along both ends of our coaster so we have fringe on both opposite sides. And I'll go ahead and speed this part up because the fringe is actually pretty easy to add. It's nothing super complicated and I don't want to make you have to sit here and watch me add each one at a time. And now we can just trim our fringe down to whatever size we like. You can have it as long or as short as you want. Totally optional. I'm kind of making mine about an inch, inch and a quarter. I'm kind of eyeballing it honestly. And now for the fun part, we're gonna take a comb, just a regular old hair comb, and we're going to brush out the fringe. Now, if you've ever done macrame, this is a super common technique because you want just a fun kind of fringy effect on the edges of your macrame. Now, you can leave it like this. I thought it actually looked quite nice, but I am gonna go ahead and comb it out. So I'm just taking my fine end of my comb and I'm just carefully combing out the macrame cording on the ends there. And as you can see, it makes this fun little kind of furry boho kind of vibe on the end of our coaster, and I think it just looks so cute. Now when I'm done doing that, I am going to trim it up one more time just to make sure they look all nice and straight, because as you're doing that you kind of pull some pieces out and whatnot. But otherwise, just trimming it up is going to be our last step and we're going to be done with this super fun coaster. I think these would make really great gift ideas. You can make a set of 4, or you could even just make one and pair it up with like a cute mug and maybe some hot cocoa or some favorite tea for a friend. And I just think that would be so much fun. If you decide to make this knit project, make sure to tag me on social media so I can see what you make. You can tag me on Instagram at Erica Arndt or hashtag Erica's Easy Knit Coaster. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for today's project. I hope you enjoyed it. These are so fun and easy to make. They're super fast, so you definitely have time to whip up like a little set of 4 for a special gift. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you did, like always, please thumbs up and subscribe. That really helps me out. You can also hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my upcoming fun videos. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Bye.